Hello, I'm Mantastic and Fantastic, and today I'm going to be going over the latest Japan stream that occurred, which introduced a lot of new evolutions, as well as various quality of life changes, as well as changes to the skill inheritance and TAM system. So I actually don't necessarily review the latest news in Japan, but there are so many new things happening, and I felt like it was worthwhile taking a look at it because some of it may require some preparation beforehand, and it gets people excited because this is a lot of exciting changes. So first off, there is going to be a change to skill inheritance, and skill inheritance has been like a relatively new mechanic, maybe about half a year now, and it's been relatively successful, I'd say, because you are able to help customize your team better. It allows you to utilize your duplicate monsters, so on and so forth, and basically have value for everything you roll from the rare machine, because now what would have been necessarily a bad roll before is now valuable because of skill inheritance. However, skill inheritance is quite a costly process. For starters, it costs 2 million coins per transfer, and you require 4 specific tans. And tans are just tedious to farm, in all honesty. Like, you have to play the tan infestation, you have to get lucky with the drops, so on and so forth, and it's not necessarily fun to do in Puzzle & Dragons. Like, they have been streamlining the game to take out a lot of the grinding aspects, but I know Puzzle & Dragons is still a grinding game, but there is fun grinding and there's kind of like the tedious, boring grinding. And Tan Infestation, I feel, falls into the tedious, boring grinding. It's just like a waste of stamina. And it would cause you not to be able to inherit monsters as liberally as you may like. You may be like, oh, I don't want to break the inheritance now because I have to farm those tans again. I can't switch things around, so on and so forth. Like, it can be a little bit of frustrating aspect. However, Gung-Ho is amending all this by changing the whole skill inheritance system in the sense that all you require now is 1 million coins. So all you need is 1 million coins and you can transfer a skill, provided you have the same qualifications for max level, max awoken, and so on and so forth. So now you can liberally transfer your skills because in-game gold still really doesn't have much use. Like, a lot of players are sitting at millions upon millions of coins, and it doesn't do anything for them. So this is great because now you can break that inheritance to utilize something new. You can try new things out at ease, and you don't have to worry about wasting your stamina in Tan Infestation anymore. So this is a great benefit. Furthermore, Gung-Ho is also introducing kind of a new twist, if you may, on skill inheritance by actually providing a stat boost for monsters if they are the same attribute. So in this scenario here, there was a Dark Kali inheriting Halloween Alirane, and because they're the same primary color, they're both dark, Dark Kali actually gains bonus stats. So the bonus stats are quite powerful because now you will have to think maybe a bit more carefully about what kind of monsters you wish to inherit. Like, you may want to try and prioritize monster colors, as well as being able to use this as a way to upgrade a monster's stats. You could inherit a completely trash active with a long cooldown, and you just buffed your monster stats. So that's a pretty new twist, as well as providing like the skill delay protection, and if the skill is relevant, you have a new skill. So skill inheritance is now a more powerful option to upgrade your teams, and that is exciting. Next is the change to tans, and because the tans are no longer used, they obviously need to have new usage. So moving forward, the tans will actually be able to evolve into a king tan. So it requires a base tan, and then 5 more of the same color. So essentially 6 regular tans becomes a king tan. And these king tans are actually used in a power-up fusion to guarantee a skill up with the same color fodder. So this means that you will be guaranteed 4 skill ups here with a green king tan on your Zeus Dios. So that means you would only have to acquire 6 wood tans and 4 Dioses to get 4 skill ups. If we're doing 3 times skill up rate, that would have been equivalent to 1 in like 30%. You need 4 skill ups. That is like 10, 12, 13, like 13-ish, 12, no, sorry, 12 Zeus Dios runs. So you basically saved here 8 runs, which is 25. That's 200 stamina in co-op. So you save 200 stamina, and you're playing Tan Infestation for multiple colors anyways. So that 200 stamina, you probably could have acquired all your tans, so you have a net stamina saving, as well as not having to grind out the same dungeon over and over again. You have some variety. I guess tans is kind of boring, but at least it's very fast and easy, and you're spending less stamina overall in this process. So a lot of people are thinking, oh wow, great, I can skill everything now. No, you can't, because this only applies really to monsters that have farmable skill-up materials. If you have monsters that are in their awoken form, they still require the pies. If they are like like if they are like Monster Point dragons, they still require pies. And if their dungeon is just so tedious and problematic to farm and clear, such as Machine Athena, you're still probably going to use pies. So the point being is, like, this is great. It adds diversification to the annoying skill up mechanic, as well as like kind of taking out the frustration aspect and the grinding aspect of getting skill ups. You still should try and skill up your monsters now because this may not occur for several months, but at least moving forward, we have better options. Next is the changes to Latent Awakenings, and the Latent Awakenings are ways to add new power and utility into your monsters. You can customize them with 5 or now 6 Awakenings with the special 6 Latent skill Tamadra, which costs 297 plus eggs to do, and that was kind of seen as a waste, like, because the benefits are so small. However, we now have these new Latents that are actually able to have more power than the previous ones. We are able to possibly make better use of that 6th skill Latent Awakening because these new ones will cost 2 spots. Like, it will cost you 2 Latent Awakening slots to actually unlock these new Awakenings. So that means that 5 you had before means you only can get 2 instead of 3. Now the 6th one, you can actually unlock 3 of them. So first off, there's going to be an all stat latent, so you get basically all the stat latents together for the cost of 2. So if your monster is beneficial in 2 stats, this is a net gain because you've only used 2 slots up, and the third one, even if it's not a big bonus, it's a bonus nevertheless. Furthermore, there's going to be these new Killer Latent Awakenings, and these Killer Latent Awakenings provide 50% more damage against a specific boss type. So Killer Awakenings are powerful because in this case here, you can actually deal up to 3.375 times attack more, if my math is not mistaken, damage to those specific types because you get 3 times 50%, 150 times. So if my math is wrong, please let me know, but I think it's correct. And that means you could have one monster dealing basically triple the damage against specific types. However, there is going to be restrictions, like certain Killer Awakenings can only be utilized by specific monster types. So you may have to actually pick and choose which monsters you want to use for these, because you may want to switch evolutions just so you can benefit from these Killer Awakenings. Now, Killer Awakenings are very powerful, and they're great when you're farming specific content, because you know for certain that you are going to deal have fixed spawns, they don't have absorption mechanics, but say you're playing like a longer, more random dungeon like Arena, Killer Awakenings can get you killed because your one monster is going to be dealing too much damage and absorption bosses will become a nightmare at that point. So this is interesting. It adds diversification. It opens up a lot of potential for farming options, especially if these Latent Awakenings are at least obtainable outside of the Monster Point shop. And in addition to the Latent Awakening changes, we are going to have regular Awakening changes. So first off, there's 2 changes being made. One is a brand new Awakening, which will actually grant 2 times damage when achieving 7 combos or more. So for all those combo-oriented leaders, especially the ones with no Skyfalls, they need to have all the help they can get. And this is kind of a controllable Killer Awakening because you are gaining 2 times damage, but you have to hit those 7+ combos. So if you control your damage intelligently, you won't actually have to worry about the double damage. And when you're trying to burst things down, you actually have additional damage from a sub who normally would not be hitting that hard. So this is actually a very powerful Awakening, and I look forward to seeing what monsters in the future gain this. In addition, the somewhat worthless Auto Heal Awakening is a little less worthless now. Instead of restoring 500 health every turn, it restores 800. So it is a small gain, but it's still relatively weak overall. Like, if we use like an example like Gabriel, who has 4, he'll provide 3,200 instead of 2,000 auto heal every turn. Not the most, but hey, like, those Awakenings were there anyways. We didn't choose them like Latent Awakenings, so it's a buff nevertheless. Next is the new evolutions that were announced, and one thing that's really fun about Puzzle & Dragons is the fact that they kind of cycle back old cards into relevance. Like, compared to a lot of other like freemium style games out there, we don't actually have this benefit of older cards being useful. Like, for instance, say Hearthstone. Old cards are actually completely cycled out of the meta because you're actually unable to use them in the standard deck, I think is the name for it. So that can be problematic because you have to constantly get new cards to stay relevant. However, in Puzzle & Dragons, we could still have older monsters and they will be recycled back into new viability. For instance, Minerva was considered like the worst monster in the game at the very beginning of PAD, And then when she got her Awoken evolution, she became quite powerful for a while, then she dipped, and then now with her Reincarnated form, she's going to become strong again. So it's this nice like up and down cycle that a lot of monsters benefit from, so they have relevance. So new evolutions are always exciting because you may have owned these monsters for a long time, fallen in love with them, and are happy to have new uses for them now. So new evolutions include 2 Godfest exclusives. So Green Odin is actually getting quite a big overhaul. It's a split evolution, so you actually have to choose which evolution you want. So you have to unevolve your Green Odin currently and then split and choose. His active skill remains the same, so you don't have to reskill it up in that way. Same with Blue Odin, which is going to be covered shortly. But Green Odin has become actually quite a powerful sub now. He basically dumped a lot of his auto heal awakenings, which were relatively useless, and he gained a skill boost, a TPA, and now Recover Bind. And that actually makes him quite a powerful mono wood or even a rainbow sub, because now you have options for bind clearing. Like, you have the TPA, so like Ronove teams are going to be more excited for this because you gained a TPA, he is wood, you have an extra skill boost, but you have this Recover Bind, so you could make the Row of Hearts, or you could use Green Odin's active, or inherit something new. Like, you have more options. As a leader, he is slightly diminished. He becomes 2.5 times to 3.5 times leader, but in most cases, you are going to be wanting to use this Odin. You do have to note that you do lose your balance typing for attacker, and you lose a significant amount of recovery, but you do gain a lot of attack, which I guess synergizes with the TPA at least. Next is Blue Odin, and Blue Odin is actually very exciting. So Blue Odin basically suffers from awkward awakenings. He has 3 rows and 3 TPAs. So most teams can't utilize both. Like, it's just not feasible. So you basically had 6 instead of 9 awakenings, and that's kind of disappointing. However, with this split evolution, you actually gained, you dropped all your TPAs to gain another skill boost, so your button teams are actually very happy. Now you have another option for a 4 skill boost monster with powerful stats, and he gained full bind immunity. And that is huge because Blue Odin actually has a 6-turn base cooldown. So now mono water teams have a brand new option for bind clearing. You can inherit a bind clear onto Blue Odin, and you actually have a hard bind clearer now with 3 rows and 4 skill boosts. So you now actually have the option of using a very high weighted stat monster as a bind clear on your mono water teams. It is an alternative to Awoken Isis because Blue Odin is much more offensive by comparison, so this is great. Like, it has more viability, more utility, so on and so forth. So this is exciting. He did lose his physical typing, so Blue Sonya teams cannot use him, but he gained attacker, so he gained obviously lots of attack. He somehow gained more health, which makes no sense, but he lost recovery, so it's a weird distribution of stats, but it's something to keep in mind. And the one thing I forgot to mention is both the Odins actually lost their sub-color. So just keep that in mind that they lost that sub-element. Yeah, Green Odin does not have light coverage anymore, so a bit less ideal for rainbow teams possibly. Next is the Reincarnated evolutions, and Reincarnated evolutions is basically a process that takes an awoken form god and just upgrades it by giving it more stats, either more awakenings, and a revamped leader skill. So it's an upgrade in every way possible, unless you require that sub-element for some strange reason. But in most cases, you should always make a Reincarnated evolution, because it breathes new viability into those monsters. So first off is Reincarnated Bastet. And Awoken Bastet used to be a very powerful leader back in the day when 36 times wood TPA was strong. However, power creep has accelerated quickly to the point where this is not a relevant leader in most cases anymore. And that was disappointing because a lot of people enjoyed that playstyle, they enjoyed the comboist nature with TPAs, and there used to be a lot of good wood 2-prop cards, and there still are. So with Reincarnated Bastet, she's been transformed now into a 156 times attack leader with using an active skill. Now, that is a very powerful, hard-hitting leader. You have the combos, you have the TPAs, you actually gained an additional one for her, so she's actually going to hit significantly harder. But the main problem is you have no durability, and you have to use an active skill to get your damage. And it's that active skill clause that's really problematic because in longer dungeons and harder dungeons, you are going to run out of actives, and because you have no recovery or health multiplier, you can't really stall for those actives again. So she is going to falter in those longer dungeons, so she's not going to be like a super popular endgame leader. However, in shorter dungeons with predictable spawns and counters, you can load up on quick charging actives or play co-op. With co-op, you have 10 actives and there's 10 floors. So in theory, You can use an active every single floor, and you just can hit incredibly hard. So it's going to be a fun leader. It's not going to be like game breaking, but it's fun. It revitalized that whole wood TPA combo leader style, but you have to have careful planning. You have to know when you can tank a hit and when you use your actives to get your damage, because if you don't use an active, you only have 25 times, and like that's just not enough in all honesty whatsoever. And next is Reincarnated Anubis. We still don't have Reincarnated Isis, which I'm excited for, because I think everyone is, to be honest, but Reincarnated Anubis is interesting because it is basically transforming the one true god back into that godly status, because Anubis has always been a very high risk and high reward leader. He required an absurd amount of combos, sometimes like presently 12 to hit full multiplier, which is unrealistic in a regular sized board, and you also had to use an active skill to get bonus damage, so on and so forth. So he basically required 9 combos and an active skill to deal damage, and he capped out at 400 times. Now he caps out at 900 times. I don't know if the combo can increase or he just ramps up faster. But the point being is you now have a potential at 900 times damage with 12 combos. Possibly excessive, a little ridiculous. We've seen the power of Awoken U and Y with 400 times in a more reliable manner, but we may need this damage in the future. Furthermore, it gives players something new, something fun to play with. Like, it gives you something to strive towards. Like, can I use Awoken Anubis or Reincarnated Anubis successfully to clear a dungeon? Like, it is an achievement because you have to consciously combo so big every single turn. And most players will be unable to do this, unfortunately. So, outside of this new leadership potential, which was still kind of niche to begin with, Reincarnated Anubis gained this Recover Bind Awakening. And a Recover Bind Awakening is great because he is bind immune and he can be used on lots of teams. So now he can become a viable bind clearing option for your dark-based teams. You can run Awoke or Reincarnated Anubis as a sub. You can inherit a bind clear to have a hard bind clear, or you can inherit, say, a dark hard orb generation to passively clear binds more easily. It's great because there are more options for Anubis outside of the crazy leadership potential, and this is a good evolution overall. Next, next is the Monster Point Dragon evolutions. Now, the Monster Point Dragons were the first 5 to ever be released. They were powerful in their heyday because, they had to make them appealing, but they've lost a lot of their luster outside of Raw Dragon and partially Yomi Dragon just due to power creep and leader skills that were outdated. So this hopefully these new evolutions breathe new life into them. They're not going to be like end-game game-breaking leaders, but it's new. They fill new niches, and it's powerful overall. Like, if you have these cards from beforehand, they're stronger now. And if you're thinking of purchasing something, they might have value if you have the right subs for it. So, Neptune Dragon is the first one to receive a new evolution, and I'm a little confused by the artwork. Like, I would not know that was Neptune Dragon unless you told me, but that is Neptune Dragon somehow, and it looks pretty cool. Like, I don't know, like, it's kind of like a robotic, cyber, rainbowish dragon, but he's not a rainbow leader. He's actually a mono row leader. Like, he wants to match he wants to match water and or also dark orbs for big damage, and he actually has been revamped to 100 times attack leader, and he now grants 2.25 times health and recovery to god types. So now he has incredible durability because in solo mode you're probably going to hit around 60 to 70,000 health, maybe more, and you also have amazing healing potential because you have a large, that's great, like, you can survive hits, you can stall things out, and you can unleash a gigantic 100 times attack when you want to. Like, you are still very orb hungry, and you are going to require lots of water or dark orbs to unleash your big damage. However, you can stall. Like, you are tanky. Like, in co-op mode, you're going to hit 100,000 health, no problem, and you're going to survive attacks. Like, you're not going to really die in most cases. And what's even better is you have amazing damage control because you have to link your orbs for big damage, and if you don't link your orbs, your damage goes down and down. So, like, the amount of orbs you choose to link together improves your damage, but you can control it because it's very unlikely you're going to skyfall a gigantic clump that's bigger than what you had already matched. So you have a great amount of damage control, so you can avoid a lot of absorption bosses with ease. And this is great because, well, why not? Like, we have now a leader that is capable of clearing Arena 3, I would say. Like, you are still going to be vulnerable to leader binds, so you have to run some sort of bind clearing to solve that. as well as having a kind of a lackluster active skill. Like giant poison is not really necessary in most cases. So you want to inherit something over it, but it's a long cooldown, so it can't be problematic. And you do have some sub-restrictions, like mostly you can't use Reunite or Blue Sonya, who are pretty stellar mono water subs. However, with skill inheritance, you can correct a lot of this. You still have Gabriel, Andromeda, Hermes, and Mori Montanari, so you do have a lot of options, at least for water subs. And Blue Odin with the new evolution actually is going to be a powerful sub on this on this Neptune Dragon team. So he's quite strong overall, and I might even want to purchase a Neptune Dragon. Like, I have monster points, I have nothing to spend them on. I actually have all the good subs for him, I'd say. So I might purchase it just to have diversification. I could have like an end game water leader that is basically on par with, well, on par or really stronger than Krishna in most cases, because your damage potential is higher, because Krishna has kind of lowish damage. Next is Shiva Dragon, and Shiva Dragon has pretty much always been like a fast farming sub. Like, you've had an unconditional 25 times attack multiplier. He's now been buffed to 39 times, so it is an improvement. He gains an extra TPA. However, there's a lot better farming options out there with Co-op and Zeus Dios button teaming. So, like, he doesn't have as wonderful of a niche as he used to. So it's an improvement if you had Shiva Dragon. I wouldn't encourage you to actually purchase Shiva Dragon if you were thinking of a Monster Point Dragon, because he's not going to really allow you to clear that much content, in all honesty. But he does at least have some value for like clearing certain content very quickly of one fire match, as well as having modest potential in ranking dungeons. However, there are better options in ranking dungeons because the new Yomi Dragon is coming out, and Yomi Dragon has always been one of the best utility dark subs out there. Like, they have the Recover Bind, they have Bind Immunity, they have Time Extend, they have Heart and Dark Orb generating active haste. They kind of brought it all. They were like kind of the Jack of, or Jill of all traits for dragons, because Yomi Dragon is a sheep. Now, her leadership potential was kind of lackluster by today's standards, because it's 36 times attack, 2.25 times recovery. Not so great. It could farm Arena 1 back in the day, but lots of teams can do that now, and lots of teams can do that safer. However, Yomi Dragon is now being propelled into an 81 times attack leader, 4 times recovery, with the same restrictions. You have to match the 5 orbs, 1 enhanced, so 5 connected orbs exactly, with one of them being enhanced, along with using god types. And you still have access to your S Shamali, you have the Haku Akachi kill combo, and you're actually well positioned to clear a lot of content. Like, 81 times is nothing to snuff at, considering you don't have really any true restrictions in terms of how you activate damage. All you have to match is that 5 orb 1 enhanced, and you have 81 times. So that means you could do one combo and sweep things fast. So I think Yomi Dragon has actually become one of the more powerful ranking dungeon options, because one combo 81 times, things die. You have orb changes. It only costs 5 orbs. Like, it's going to be really powerful for ranking dungeons, so I'm excited for that. But even playing in high-level content, 81 times is a lot, because you can stack orb enhances with S Shamalis, you have the kill combo, you have bind immunity, you have recover bind, you have haste. Like, Yomi Dragon kind of brings it all, and you can use monsters that are powerful that break hearts, because you're not a heart cross leader. You have the ability to make hearts, you can heal like crazy. The main downside is you are still somewhat squishy. You don't have very high... you're not going to have very strong base health just because there's no health multiplier. If they gained a health multiplier, oh, they'd be so amazing. So you either have to use the 15% health badge or play in co-op. In co-op, you'll maybe have 45 to 50,000 health is my guesstimate. Reasonable for most things, but you may need a shield for certain dungeons. But thankfully, Yomi Dragon is very flexible. You have great team building options, and you can stall kind of indefinitely with 4 times recovery. And because you only have 4 times damage passively, you're not really going to activate your damage, so you can stall with ease provided you survive the attacks. Another thing to note is that because of the passive 4 times damage for Dark Gods, you actually can bypass bosses like Sopdet and Arena, so something nice to keep in mind. So overall, there was a lot of changes in this new Japan stream, like a lot of exciting things. Like, I'm excited for like the Monster Point Dragon renewal, because it gives uses to people who had them from beforehand. It gives more excitement. There's new evolutions, and I really like the changes to skill inheritance, because now we don't have to grind them out, as well as the changes to Tans and how they can help skill things up, because now skilling up is becoming less grindy, so you can focus on playing dungeons that you want to play. You say you want to play challenging content more often. You don't have to spend too much time or resources, stamina playing the more tedious content. So let me know what you think about the changes in the Japan stream. Do you like these type of videos and articles discussing the changes that occur in Japan months before they hit North America? Let me know in the comments below. This article you see here will be linked in the YouTube description, so take a look there if you want to read my thoughts as well. So thank you very much for watching. Have a fantastic day, and